Hey everyone, and welcome to the second part of the install. So we're just going to head down here to our start menu. I guess I didn't go over this in the first video, but this is how you open the program, or one of the ways you can open the program. After install, it's just right here. So it's just in your regular programs, and you just hit start up here, let it do its thing. Again, for right now, we want to make sure that we have an internet connection, because we're basically going to do the final install on all the little side modules in the program, so that in the near future here you don't have to have an internet connection at all, and you can just do whatever in the program. That's kind of what we're looking for here. So everything is ready. You can see up in the top right corner here we're good to go, so you can just minimize the command prompt, or the command screen there. And then last time I left you with this here, so we're gonna do the rest of the installments here. So I'm just gonna go into settings. I'm gonna disable the sound, which is the little bing noise you hear whenever something finishes, like a task in the program. And we'll just leave this balanced for now. And we're just gonna click save. Go back up here to generate. We're gonna drop down the image settings menu and the negative prompt menu. We're just gonna go here to output format. This is so everything you generate, these are the different formats, file types you can generate from. We're just gonna go to PNG for now. And yeah, so right here, this is so everything in here is just the base install. This is all the most basic stuff. We've got SD 1.4. Now there's 1.5, which is probably a little bit more ideal, and then there's SDXL 1.0, and that's what we're going to install real quick here today from their page, and also get the additional things installed here. So anyways, we're just going to go up to the prompt here, and we'll just put man standing, or no, we'll do something like close up of a man's face. And you can also right click and spell check these menus in case you're ever not sure if you're spelling something right. Now we're just going to generate like regular, so just make an image like I showed you last time. We're just going to let it do its thing. Okay, so we've got a guy's face. Alright, now this is where, so if you watch down here, you're gonna basically see it should install like an additional packet from online. We're gonna run our cursor over here, and we're gonna use the fix face feature. Now for the most part this is fine, really, but we're just gonna go here to fixed incorrect faces. We're gonna click that on, and there's two here. There's the code former, and there's the GFP GAN version 1.4. So we're just gonna select the first one, and we're gonna click on fix faces. Now what it should do is it should be downloading, as you can see, basically another Part2 install, and then it's gonna attempt to use that and fix the face. Now it actually just ended up making it blurrier, I think. We can click undo. Yeah, basically it didn't really fix anything. Kind of fixed the eyes, maybe the mouth geometry a little bit, sort of. But you can see that that's basically a feature that now we've installed and unlocked, Now we're going to go down to code former. Okay, doesn't really matter what strength you have it at right now, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So make sure that you undid the previous one, and then again we're just going to go fix faces, and you can see again it's downloading another. And then it's going to apply it here. There you go. So this is the basically made like a whacked out dude. Anyway, you probably won't use this necessarily. You might in some circumstances use this, but for the most part it is kind of hit and miss once you've generated a picture if it's going to make it any better, any worse. Ideally, the times that you want to try this is basically like, let's say, we generated this guy here, but this eye, or this eye in particular, is like freaking looking off into the sky or something like that, or has like double pupils or whatever. You can try using this method to fix faces and basically regenerate it. So anyways, we're going to turn this off now because we don't want all our next images in the future to be generated with this, right? You only enable this and select one of these when you want to try and fix some sort of image that you've generated, okay? That's one method of fixing it. So we're just going to clear this for now. Now, we are, let me just like think here what the next input will be. So we want to get our SDXL model installed so that we can basically use better generations in the future. They're not necessarily better, but they're sometimes more coherent. You get better results, higher resolutions. You can change the resolutions like super high. You can add in custom resolutions. I mean, like 9999. I don't know, actually know how high it can go. Oh, there you go. So 10,000 or whatever. Anyway, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go back to 512 by 512 and click that. And we're going to go to help and community. Actually, no, we're going to minimize this. Okay. And we will just minimize that here. I'm going to leave this link in the description because so we're just going to open up a new browser while that one's running. We're going to right click and go here. We're just going to scroll down on this link, and you'll see here it says that the SDXL model that we want to install the stuff from online can be found here. So this is the base model 1.0. We're just going to left click on that. It's going to take you to this page here, and then we're just going to click download, and we're just going to save it to the desktop temporarily for now, and I'll show you where to put this, okay? So we're just going to wait for this to download. Shouldn't take as long as the last one, so I don't think I'm going to have to skip or anything here. We'll just wait. While it's doing that, we are going to go back here to the main program, and there's other things called control nets. And basically, if we go down here to the different sizes, like 44 by 640, and we do something, well, let's actually we'll stick to 512 by 512. We're going to go browse under control net image. We're going to go to our desktop. Well, I'm going to go to the desktop here. I'll leave a link to this image, which is actually just on their main site. This woman here, portrait. We're just going to open that. Under here, where it says filter to apply, we're going to select open pose. And where it is model here, we'll just leave it as open pose also. Doesn't matter about the strength for now. All we're doing is we're installing the OpenPose module, which you probably will use in the future if you're using the SD 1.5 base models. You're probably going to be using control nets. So we're just going to get that installed right now so that you can monkey around with that in the future when you need to. Anyways, our download is done. We'll just go back here and we're going to download the second download right here for this base model. It's called SDXL base, and it's the VE safe tensors. We're just going to click on that like we did the other. We're going to download this here, save to the desktop. Don't rename these, by the way. Keep the same names. We're just going to go back here, and we're just going to close up of a man's face, or let's just do portrait. Oops. Portrait. I think I'm spelling that wrong. No. Portrait of a man's face, and we're just gonna make an image. It should be downloading a ControlNet module now, and you may notice this image up here is gonna change a little bit. So body pose model is now installing. You're going to need that for future use of OpenPose if you're working offline. None of what we're doing right now will really matter if you have an internet connection consistently when using this program. This is just a preliminary sort of install to make sure that you have what you need in case you don't have an internet connection. So yeah, you'll see up here it kind of looks like there's weird lines and stuff that have come up. That's basically the OpenPose. It's trying to orient the generated image based off of this input image. So it should have a guy basically that is, side profile with their head turning towards you. This is obviously a woman, but it should have something similar pose-wise to this input picture. Even if it doesn't on this little demonstration here, it's not a big deal. We're just installing the stuff that we need so that we can do this in the future. I'll show you how to use better application for it. So yeah, you can see that's kind of how it generated. You can see the similarities, right? So shoulder, right, side profile, shoulder, side profile. The person's chin, right, similar to where the guy's generated. Nose, so on, lips, blah blah blah, eyes. You get the idea, right? So OpenPose is really useful if you want to re-replicate certain postures for future generations, or stick to one particular thing. Like let's say you're doing a bunch of I'll minimize this here and there. Our download is done, so we can close this particular one. We have them both on the desktop here, but I'll just go into here and give you an example of how you can use OpenPose. So this is something I did earlier. This is Penny from Inspector Gadget. I did an age up, but I was using ControlNet OpenPose, as you can see, to keep the same pose, right, even though it's a completely different image going up. And this is just an application that you can use, right? So, but you can do this for anything. Maybe a guy holding a sword or making an impact or whatever. This is one application of using ControlNet OpenPose that you can do. So that's just so you understand, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove this just for now, and we're going down here to Canny, which is probably, in the future you're probably going to be using Canny or OpenPose the most, probably. I don't necessarily know if you'll be using the depth map stuff, but we're going to click Canny, right? And we're just going to do the exact same thing. We'll keep everything else the same in the prompt here. Just click make image, and you'll see it's going to download another module for this, okay? And again, you can see this has changed, right? The way that it's mapping. Canny is going to try and make your input as similar to the base image as possible, so it's likely that any man's face generated is actually going to look more feminine and closer to the style of this picture potentially. The reason you would use this is yeah, so you can see here, so it's definitely trying to input the man's face sort of onto the base image, right? You can see what I mean, but it's keeping the orientation, everything is exact. So for projects, you might want to use this for things like clothing swaps or stuff like that onto other characters potentially, where you might be able to key in clothes using a reference image and sort of force that, right? Anyway, we now have that installed, and again, we're just going to remove that, and just for the sake of doing it, right at this moment in time, we're going to go to depth. I don't know if yeah, I don't think it's actually going to work off of this input image. I think you actually need kind of like a depth map image, or it might convert it right now. Let's find out together, because I'll admit I don't really use this very often, but similar to Canny, it's going to try and basically replicate the the depth features of this image, so things like, I believe, shadows and you know, the 3D aspects of the image. So anyways, let's just find out here. So select normal base, just leave the bottom one as it selects, and we're just gonna go hit make image here again. I don't know if this is gonna work out, but it should still download the module, and that's what it's doing right now. So like I said, once we're done here, this will give you the tools to monkey around with this, whether or not you're connected to the internet or not. And you can see here again, it's altered the image. It looks like it has converted it, and you can see it's sort of like the pink tones are the closer to you, I believe, and the blue tones are basically further from you. So it's going to try and re-replicate that 3D look of the image. Well, let's see how that turns out here. Yeah, so there you go, right? So again, it has similarities to Canny, but it tends to generate probably even a little bit better in this demonstration anyways, towards the initial picture. So there. We're done with the control net stuff right now, so we're just going to clear all of this, right? And we're just going to click the little X on here on control image to sort of clear that out, right? This should be empty. Now, another thing I want to demonstrate here is we're going to click on Custom Vey drop-down menu. And by the way, if you want to know more about these particular things before I get to them in the future, all you do is click these little blue question marks next to any of these options. So if you're ever left wondering, right, and I haven't covered it in a video or something like that, just click on these. So for instance, Custom Vey right here, what we're about to do, just left click on this. It's going to open up basically all the information on it, how to use it, what it's about, and all of this kind of stuff, right? So again, super useful. I definitely recommend reading through that, but Veys are sort of like, so I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm no programmer. I don't, make software. I am no savant expert or anything like that at AI. I'm just some dude who dumped a year on this, and I'm sharing with you guys what I've learned for the most part. So terminology wise, I'm probably not on point, but hopefully close enough that it makes sense. So for the VE here, it's kind of like HDR effect. It's going to bring out color depth and coherency in sort of like lighting and color in the images. It's going to make things pop better and potentially even fix little errors when you're using a base model. Whenever I refer to base model, I'm always referring to this here. So in the near future here, in a second, I'm going to show you how to load up the SDXL model, and right now we're using SD 1.4, okay? But anyway, so let's generate something with the base VE, which is this here. So we just select that. This one is for just SD 1.4 and SD 1.5. It should work with either one of those. So again, we're just going to generate the same image here, and it might generate with just a higher depth of color in the image. So it kind of has, it's hard to tell with what we've done, but you can kind of see there's a bit more sort of color depth in the image. And if we remove this here, but we use the same exact seed, so we'll go use these settings, right? But we'll turn off the VE that we just used. It's going to keep the seed, which should regenerate this exact image, okay? You'll see the seed is right up here, okay? It should generate the exact same image except without the effects of the VE. So this should be an example of what the difference between the two would be. Okay, there's not that much of a difference in these two particular images. I know it's kind of hard to see, but if you look at this one here, there's bluing in the eyes that looks more prominent than there is here. That also could just be me, pulling shit out of my butt as like referencing. Possibly the stubble around his lip is actually darker in the original without the VE. Same with the background colors. The beige might be actually darker. So in this circumstance, I'm not necessarily sure what one you would prefer, but again, with anything that's art related, unless you need something for a particular project, it's up to your own preferences. You may like this without a VE, you may like it with a VE, but one thing to note in the future, if you ever run into generation problems where maybe you have like weird blue sort of like pixelation or red pixelation or just distortion is in your images and you aren't using a VE, you may want to use one. It might actually fix that problem for you. So anyways, we're going to clear this. You at least have a general idea of what that's all about. We're going to go back to random seed. You can just click this to lock out seeds. You can even put in whatever you want, like I'll just put 3, 4, 5, right? And we can make another image, and it'll basically take this random number I've put in and try again. There you go. So you can monkey around with that if you want. That's also a way that you can save a seed. So if you're working with one model and you know all your parameters, you can actually just go into your programs here, into Windows Accessories, open up Notepad or something like that, and then just whoops, don't want to do that. Just right click here and copy this, and you can just paste the seeds of your work projects, right? If you think it's something that you can go back on and use, you can save it and rename it and do whatever. We're not doing that right now, but just an idea for you. So we'll clear that, and now we're going to close this program down because we're going to do the actually before we do that, let's just take care of this one last install. We're going to make another image here, and I'm going to show you how to download the upscalers. So right now this is 512 by 512, you'll see. That's what we're generating at. Now right here it'll say upscale. We're going to go down to here, click on scale up times 4. There should be 3, okay. Real ESR GAN times 4 plus. This one is good for more realistic imagery. This one is better for kind of cartoon, but depending on if it's like semi-realism, you can go between each of them, and sometimes one might be a bit more favorable than the other. Experiment. But basically these are going to double the resolution size, or I guess this would double the resolution size. We're just going to try this now. So 512, 512, it's going to try as best as it can to upscale this image to a higher resolution for you to download, okay? Again, this is going to install packets from online, so we're just going to click upscale. Okay, so it didn't need to install anything for that one, but you'll see it's now 1024 by 1024, okay? And then you can download it at this, or you can undo. We're going to just go to the next one here, the 4x anime 6B, whatever. We're going to upscale, bring this up to see if it's installing anything. It wasn't. So you can see between the two images, the anime one and the regular one, this looks like, it almost looks like it's what's the word, like someone's taken a blur tool almost to it and kind of smeared it around, right? It's not as like crisp, whereas this one here, if we upscale it again with it, it actually keeps that sort of crispness, right? You can see, especially in the stubble, you can see the individual hairs. If we undo that and we go back to this one, you'll see that it sort of tries to blend in, because like I said, this one is not necessarily the best for real subjects. See? Again, it depends. Maybe you like this. If so, use it. And then the last one, latent upscaler. This, I don't know if it necessarily has support for right now. I know it used to in the past, but basically this is to try and be as like lossless in upscaling as it can. So those other methods, they'll lose some detail bringing up the resolution size. This one, I believe, tries to keep everything as best as it can. So we're just gonna click upscale, and this one's downloading a bunch of stuff. Like I said, I don't know if this one is still working, but we're gonna download it and try. This is a more intense upscaler, by the way, as well, when it is working. In the past, my experience is you're getting really good results, usually. However, it takes much longer than the other two I just showed you, and it's just more process heavy on your computer. So if you're, for instance, like this is only 512 by 512 initially, but let's say you're like 1400 by 1400 or something like that, it's likely that if you do get the latent upscaler working for it, it's going to probably be another 10 minutes on top of whatever generation you just made to get it upscaled. It's going to take a little while. Okay, good. So it did work, and it is working. So you can see out of these two, this is probably the most coherent to the original image. So again, upscales to 1024 by 1024. We undo this. In this image here, there's almost no loss, and in fact there's actually a bit more detail added to the eyes, even slightly more detail added to the eyes. So generally speaking, if you can get the latent upscaler to work and you have the time per image, or choice selecting the right image, this can be a good way of doing it. Either way, now you have the upscalers installed, so we're just going to disable this. Okay, and we'll just remove this here because we're going to close the browser down, and we're just going to close the command window like I showed you in the last video, just to close the program down. Now these two things that we've just downloaded here, this is the base. It's important to make sure you know that this is the base and this is the VE. The VE will always be smaller as far as how big it is, so you can see, oh, actually it's not. Usually they are, but this, because it's an SDXL VE, I guess, is actually 6 gigs, and the base VE is also probably around 6 gigs. Yeah. Either way, click on it, read it, says base 1. This one here says VE, right? So we're going to cut this one here, okay, off your desktop. We're going to go into where Easy Diffusion is saved in your C drive. Double click on that. We're going to open up Easy Diffusion. So this process here is important to remember because you're going to be doing this a lot in the future, most likely, especially if you get really involved in it. So we're going to click on Models now, and we're going to go down to Stable Diffusion just right here. Okay. So you'll see a little text message that's in the actual folder they've provided you with. You can double click that to read. It will tell you that you can have the extensions of CKPT or safe tensors. CKPT, I believe, is a out-of-date supported sort of file extension, and the safe tensors is basically the new and improved. It just performs better, and I believe as far as people tampering with stuff and uploading it to like questionable websites, there's less of a chance of you getting a virus using it or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Either way, we're now going to right click, and we're just going to paste off the desktop the SDXL base 1.0. Okay, so this is the SD 1.4 that we were just using. Okay, you can see the difference too in sizes here. This is 2 gigs, this is 6 gigs, almost 7. And the reason for that is, like I said, you're gonna get probably a lot more consistency and realism towards your projects with SDXL than you are SD 1.4 or 1.5. Again, depends what you're doing, but we're about to experiment with this in a second. So close this down. Now we're going to grab the VE, do the same thing. We're just going to cut this off the desktop, go into your C drive here, into Easy Diffusion, back into Models, and we are going down to where it says VE. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Same deal. You can read the little text file they give you. So this one has a few different ones, .pt or .ckpt or safe tensors, right? And we are just going to paste that into here. Okay, so now we have the SDXL base as well. Okay, and for the 1.4 and the 1.5 one that comes with the program that we didn't download, this is obviously much smaller, 300,000 kilobytes, right? As opposed to like almost 7 gigs. So do keep this in mind in the future when you're downloading a bunch of models, that there's going to be some that are quite large. I think these days, for the most part, the main models, they're sitting, if you're downloading a bunch of SDXL models, which I'll show you how to do in future videos, they're usually somewhere around, I think, 4 to yeah, 6 or 7 gigs each. So I mean, if you don't have a large base hard drive, that can obviously start ramping up. You're going to want an external that you can run these things off of. Anyway, we're going to go back into the program here. Easy Diffusion. I'm actually going to show you the other way of running the program in case you ever lose your shortcut. You can go back to where it's installed on your C drive, click Easy Diffusion, and then right down here you'll see Start Stable Diffusion UI.cmd. You can use this in the exact same way as we just did. So you can actually just create a shortcut even if you wanted to, or double click on it directly. Doesn't really matter. But I'll just show you this here. So we'll just running it from here. You just created your own shortcut. That's how you can do it. So if you were just using an SDXL model initially in this program, like we're about to, it may take a little bit longer to open up the program initially. I will show you one other thing. You see how it says that it's scanning all models and folders, right? And then it says it scanned 8 models and nothing infected. The program itself, as far as I understand, has kind of like a light virus protection for malicious code. I don't really know how it works. I don't know how well it works. You know what I mean? Anything like this. My suggestion is don't download any sorts of models from unreputable sites to minimize any potential for there to be some issue. I'll show you how to kind of like attempt to mitigate that in the future, but you're definitely going to just obviously want some sort of virus protection anyways, but for the most part this is fairly safe. I don't believe that you're going to have to worry too much about it. Anyway, drop down the image settings, the negative prompt settings. Again, we're just going to put this back to PNG. That's just my preferred image extension. You get more resolution, I think, out of images generated than you would a JPEG. You'll get like pixelation or distortion sometimes, and then WebP, don't really do anything with that. I don't know too much about it, but I would say if you want the absolute best sort of quality in the final saved image, I believe PNG is what you're going to look for when you want to do that. So you'll see here it's under model. It now has SDXL base 1.0. That's what we just installed. Okay, this is now something entirely different. I want you to understand that it's basically the next, as far as I understand, it's the next technology up from the SD 1.4 or 1.5. We don't have 1.5 installed. We only have 1.4. That allows you to get more out of this program, okay? And you'll probably notice it here. So first of all, most images that you generate with SD 1.4 or 1.5 are going to work best in lower resolution brackets. I would say that once you start getting up into like 1024 by 768 or resolutions that are high like that, it's going to stop being it's going to fail to be as accurate and start distorting images in your outputs. It'll depend on the model, but that you may run into that issue. If you're working with SDXL, chances are it's going to perform dramatically better at those higher resolutions, which is what we're basically going to just start at here. We'll go 768 by 1024, whereas before we were 512 by 512, right? And it should perform really well. So we're just going to go man with a long beard standing in the rain next to a lake. The other thing to note here is if you're working with SDXL models, you need less of a description generally, and it tends to, I believe, work better with that. Whereas if you are working with the older models, it needs more of a description. So what do I mean by that? If you wanted like in an SDXL model, if I go a Swedish man, I'll have to here, Swedish man with a long beard, from the waist up, lake in. You can also separate too, just like this. And then just put background, so lake background. It should, I think Swedish, like, men, I'm not really sure, have hazel or bluish eyes, and usually more blondish or lighter hair tones. I don't know for sure, but I think that's how it is. So in an SDXL model, if you are vaguely putting in things like this, it will add additional factors in that correlate with, you know, what a Swedish man should look like, right? Whereas if you do that with SD 1.4 or whatever, and you don't specify, for instance, hair color or the color of eyes or things like this, it's not necessarily going to put an output image that corresponds with it. Like it might give a Swedish dude green hair or something like that with this. You get what I mean? So you have to be a little more exact with your words. Either way, we're just going to try this here right now. So first, we're going to use Nove. We're just going to generate this here. Also, too, now that we've installed this, it's going to download the additional things. This is, again, why we're doing this, so that once this is all done, you're not going to need an internet connection to use these in the program. And this is downloading this additional stuff from online for the SDXL models. Again, as well, the bigger models, the step up, it's going to take up more of your computer's resources. So if you have a really old computer and it struggles, you're probably going to want to stick to, I would recommend SD 1.5 in the future for any kind of projects or generations. You can get very nice results with SD 1.5 stuff that does not take, it doesn't wear hard on your computer. So don't worry if you can't run SDXL models, even though you should be able to, but the bottom line is it should work out for you. But yeah, anything SDXL, it's going to take basically double the time, if not more, than any of the SD 1.4, 1.5 stuff. It'll always be quicker. The other models, the 1.4, 1.5, will be quicker. I apologize too, this video is without a doubt going to be extremely long. I will probably butcher the crap out of this and release 2 or maybe just 1 install video that's probably going to be like a minute or 2 minutes long, that's literally just no speaking and like the absolute most basic steps to install the program. Because the reality is this is only long because I'm babbling on and showing you all this additional stuff that I'm sure some people out there don't really care about. But this is definitely for anyone who knows absolutely nothing about this, just to get a better idea of how things sort of play out in real time. Usually as well, on your initial generations, like when you very first open up the program and you generate your first image of whatever it is you're doing, it's almost always going to take the longest amount of time on the initial image with that model loaded, and then the next image after should be about half the time. So if this does end up actually taking like 7 minutes or something like that, and we do another back-to-back image right after, it's probably going to be more along the lines of like 4 or 3 minutes to generate the image. So keep that in mind. Yeah, there are options in the future that I can go over that might reduce the generation times as well, depending on what kind of graphics card you have. If you have NVIDIA, there might be options in something called Xformers. In the help and community here, if you go to Xformers right here and click it, we're not going to go over this right now, but if you want to read about it, this might be an option in the future for you, just to kind of put on the back burner. But yeah, it only works with NVIDIA GPUs. And it's not a guarantee that it's going to make things run better. My experience is that on older versions of Easy Diffusion software, it has actually made a huge difference with me in the past, especially working with the SDXL models. Okay, so here's an example. Oh no, it is still loading. I was going to show you a trick, because sometimes under settings here, if you're not running low, you can wind up, if you have an older computer, you can wind up with images sort of just maxing out, and they may lock up. If that happens for whatever reason, like let's say this is taking over 10 minutes, chances are something is probably gone wrong, or you might have way too high resolution here or something for your computer. If that's the case, it's not the end of the world. Just hit the stop button and then wait for this here in the top right corner to go back to green. You can clear it, you can retry settings, and so on. But if you are finding that things are just locking up or whatever, click settings, go down here to where it says GPU memory usage and click low, and then just hit save at the bottom here. Okay, and then continue with what you're doing. You're going to have to, every time you reopen the program, you're going to want to select low as a setting for that. So again, I apologize, this is taking a while here, but I just want you to see kind of what can go on and what to expect, sort of deal. Anyway, what I was going to say too about the Xformers in older versions of the program, I actually found that working with SDXL models, for instance, if I had an image that was taking like 10 minutes per image to generate, which is of course way too long. I mean, if you're spending 10 minutes on images that are this low resolution and have nothing else involved, that's too much time. You shouldn't really be sinking that much into it. When I was using the Xformers though, before, it could cut down from 10 minutes to 4 minutes to 2 minutes. So basically, I noticed a pretty major improvement in the past. Right now, we don't have any Xformers installed, but we're just running this to show. the basics at the moment. One thing to add here, if you are watching the command window while this is doing its final, it may say that it's 100% finished on this end, but it might still say it has a bit of time left here. That's not that abnormal. Just give it a bit more time. So anyway, we're going to minimize this. So you'll see here that it hit everything that we asked for, right? We said a Swedish man with a long beard. He has, as you can see, hazel or bluish eyes. He has lighter hair tones, like reminiscent of, I assume, Swedish men. And waist up. So this was generated from his waist up, you can see, and then we had lake in the background. So an SDXL base model, right? This is the as vanilla basic model as you can get your hands on right now, okay? Will generate to this sort of coherency, all right? So we're not going to change this prompt at all. We're not going to do anything different. In fact, we'll even keep the same seed that this generated with. You see, 8080 at the end here, right? Same seed. We're going to select the SD 1.4, right? We're going backwards now, and we're going to try the same resolution bracket, 768 by 1024. Now remember, I said that it's not always going to work well with that for these older models, but we're going to try it anyways, and we're just going to keep all the same settings, okay? And we're going to see if it works any better coherency wise and so on. So we're just going to go make image, run it again here. So as you can see as well, because we're now back working with the SD 1.4, it's much faster. So again, if your computer's not the best, I suspect that if we ran another, so everything the same, you can see kind of what I mean. So one, working at these higher resolution values, it starts to mess up and distort things. And you'll notice that Swedish man, it's brown hair, no real eye color. I mean, it's hard to tell because it wasn't really all that generated properly. It did get the lake, it did get this and that, but in order to get a more accurate result, what you would have to do is we should be able to keep the same seed. So we're just going to go to 44.8 by 640, okay? And we are instead going to say Swedish man with blonde hair and blue eyes, comma, and then actually, let's do this. We're just going to bracket out long beard at the end of the description of him, and then have from the waist up, and then comma lake background. So this should now fix this and give a more similar result to the SDXL model that we used before. So let's see if that actually plays out. Kind of plays out, but definitely better than these results here. So I mean, there's oranging in the beard and so on. This kind of stuff could actually be fixed by using a vase, so we're going to try that. We're going to go to the SD 1.4, SD 1.5 vase right here. Don't select the SDXL base vase. This will not work with this model. It's good to remember that too. If you're ever running into errors, something will come up here in red and it will say, actually it might even just say right on the screen, it'll say, you know, such and such can't run with blah blah blah. That's probably what's going on, is you selected the wrong vase. So make sure you're using the right one for the right model. There's only two to remember right now, so it's either the SDXL one or the other one for the older versions. So we're going to select this and we're just going to regenerate the image again using the exact same seed, but now we have a vase. See if that does any improvement. Sort of improvement. So you can see there's definitely much darker, sort of oversaturated like tones here, and then in this one it's not necessarily more realistic, but a little less so, I guess. Yeah, hit or miss. So yeah, you basically have everything now to sort of monkey around with stuff. Again, images like this, if you want to upscale, you can in fact upscale it. We're just going to go, if you want to go back on an image like this and upscale, you can just go use these settings, click it, go up to the top, and it will reselect everything that you had, including what you had up here. So see, if I click here, use these settings, it'll even change the prompt that I had, okay? And everything that's involved in there. One last thing I'll leave you with is in the negative prompts here, you can read up on it by clicking the little blue question mark. It'll go over, you know, everything that's here and so on. But basically, you can add in anything that you don't want. Let's say this Swedish guy that you're trying to generate, there's always a fish that is jumping in the background, and you never put a fish in, and you don't know why there's a fish, but there's always a fish, and it's ruining your image, and you want it gone, okay? There's a few ways of getting rid of that, but the easiest way in future generations is literally just to add fish, okay? If there's a whale in the background, same deal. Let's say there's always two people in the image, even though you're specifically just talking about one person. You can go to girl or to boy. I believe that will always generate a single person, I believe. You can also force that, so you can either go one boy at the start like that, or one guy. I believe that works too. Generally it's like one boy, and that'll keep to just one particular character. Same deal if we go to boy, and we'll just get rid of this. I'll just quickly demonstrate this with another seed. We'll probably generate two different guys here. I think so. One will be Swedish and so on, or they both will be, but it's going to add two of them, as you can see here. So this obviously more coherent with the prompt that was up here, you know, blue eyes, blonde hair, blah blah blah, right? Again, I don't know if Swedish men are like this. This is how we're doing it, right? So yeah, what you're typing here will matter, but again, check it out. Click on all of these little blue question marks, read about it. If you've run out of reading through this stuff and you want to read about more, click on the help tab and just go through it, you know? And it's labeled basics, intermediate, advanced topics, miscellaneous, so on. If you end up running into weird issues or whatever, you can sign up to Discord and you can talk to people directly who are part of the community. Personally, I've never done that. I don't know how many people are involved in that or what's going on. I don't know. But that's something that might work for you. So anyways, we're going to end this today because this is like way too much rambling on, and I don't even think I would sit through this video, but hopefully for anyone new, this covers enough now that you have something that you can play around with. So remember, you have the SD 1.4 model and the SDXL model 1.0 now installed on your computer. And within the settings and parameters we've used, have fun, generate whatever, and experiment. Yeah, honestly, when I first learned this program, I pretty much had there weren't any videos online. There were no YouTube communities or anything for Easy Diffusion. There was for other programs like Automatic 1111. You'll probably see it around a lot. Another one I think is Forge. There's a bunch of them out there, but bottom line is there was like nothing for Easy Diffusion. So I just pretty much was experimenting, messing around with parameters, reading what I could, and just sort of figuring out things from there. So yeah, my suggestion is if you have the time, if you have a bit of like know-how, go ahead and enjoy yourself. So we're just going to close the program like we always do. And yeah, we don't need this, or if you want to keep that there, you can. But if you have the shortcut in your start menu, you may as well just use it from here because it's already there. Alright everyone, this was Getting Therapy. Hopefully you can get some therapy through using this program. And yeah, I'll see you in the future videos. They'll be shorter, don't worry. Have a good one, guys. Bye.